What's up? My name is TechNoba here for Troubleshoot and welcome to this No BS Windows 10 optimization guide. No Windows guide out there will double your FPS, only in-game optimization can do that. However, this video will start on options that should have the most effect and go down to the least effect. I've seen guides mentioning everything down to mouse DPI for more FPS, so this is going to be a little more realistic. This portion of the video was sponsored by Lenovo Legion. You're watching an optimization video, which means you want performance. Sign up for the Legion gaming community, link below, join the discussion and reply to my thread to enter a giveaway for a gaming laptop. Winner announced at the end of October 2021. The Legion gaming community is a hub for Legion content, rewards, and giveaways. So with that out of the way, let's get right into it. First of all, the most obvious things. 1. Update Windows and update your graphics drivers. Let's start with Windows. Hit Start, type in Update, and then open up Check for Updates. Inside the new Windows Update window here, click Check for Updates and wait for it to complete. You may see updates downloading here, so wait for them to install after downloading. If you see optional quality update available, then make sure you click download and install here as well. However, if you see a Windows 11 update dialog, you may not want to take the plunge just yet. I recommend you do your own research to see if Windows 11 would suit your computer or not. I for one will be sticking to Windows 10 at least for a while, though I'll still be doing Windows 11 guides. If you're prompted to restart after updates have installed, make sure to click it, reboot your computer, and come back. Though I'll be doing this at a later date. Next up, updating your graphics drivers. Now, of course, if you're using something like Nvidia GeForce Experience or the AMD equivalent, you can update your driver through there. But if you're not, you can head across to the links in the description down below to update your drivers. I'll have this page linked for Nvidia users. This is a bit different to the usual, which is this page here, as this one allows you to choose non-DCH, the Microsoft Store version of Nvidia drivers. So select your product type, in my case, GeForce, GTX 10 series, GTX 1080 Ti. I'll leave it as Windows 10 64, make sure the driver type is set to standard, here's the DCH option, and then click search. Then you'll see a number of drivers below it. Look for the latest game-ready driver version, then click it, and click download. Then download once again, and wait for it to download onto your computer. So I'll click in it to open it up, click yes when prompted for admin, OK, and wait for this to run through to completion. Then of course you can choose whether you want GeForce Experience or not. I personally don't use it, so I'll click the next option, agree and continue. Then custom, next, and choose what you'd like here. I personally don't use these speakers in my monitor or a headphone connected to it, so I have the HD audio driver disabled. Next. Now we wait for the install. I'll have to quickly pause my recording here. And there we go. If you're watching this video on the same computer you just updated and your browser is no longer playing the video properly, just close it and reopen this page. Then I'll click close and we're done with updating our computer. Now, of course, because this is most to least effect on your computer, it should be said that overclocking your computer will gain you quite a few FPS, especially if you can push it pretty far. Though this video won't be an overclocking guide. Overclocking can be as simple as raising your power limit. Using something like MSI Afterburner, I can raise my GTX 1080 Ti power limit from 100 to 120 or 117 in this case, click apply, and it's usually a quote safe, quote again, automatic overclock. It's not really an automatic overclock, but it does stop your computer limiting itself when the power limit has been reached. Instead, it'll probably thermal throttle or other things like that. With good airflow and cooling, you won't really need to worry about this. That'll net you a couple of extra FPS, though of course upping the clock of your CPU and GPU can help quite a bit, especially with FPS, input latency, etc. That being said, I do have an Nvidia control panel optimization guide linked down below that I'd recommend you follow after you finish this video here. Next up, the Windows Power Plan. This will especially have an effect on laptops or notebooks. Hit start, type in Power Plan, and click Choose a Power Plan. Inside of here, you'll usually have a couple of options. You may have balanced or power saver selected, which is not good for gaming performance. If you have high performance, select that. Otherwise, if you've installed chipset drivers for something like AMD Ryzen, if you have a Ryzen processor, you can choose AMD Ryzen High Performance for a somewhat noticeable performance boost. If you'd like, you can go the extra step and install the Ultimate Power Performance Plan, which you'll find in the description down below. Hit start, type in CMD, and then run command prompt as administrator. Simply copy it from the description down below and paste it in here by right-clicking. Powercfg, duplicatescheme, followed by a bunch of numbers and letters. Hit enter, and upon closing this window, heading back to Power Options, Refreshing, you should now see an ultimate performance power plan. Awesome. Next up, Windows Game Mode and Game Bar. Hit Start, type in Game Mode, and it'll be opening up Game Mode settings. Inside of here, make sure that Game Mode is turned on, and on the Xbox Game Bar tab, make sure that this is turned off, unless you use something like Xbox Friends, chatting, etc., which may require this to be on. Then in Find a Setting, we'll search for Graphics, and we'll head into Graphics Settings. In here, we'll make sure that Hardware Accelerated GPU Scheduling is turned on, Variable Refresh Rate, if you have it, is turned on, and right down here at the bottom, Graphics Performance Preference. This last option here will usually have a huge difference on laptops or notebooks with integrated and dedicated graphics cards. If you're on a desktop, you may not notice a difference here, but it's worth a shot. What we'll do is select Desktop App from the dropdown and then click Browse here to add our game if it's not already on the list. I'll navigate across to Steam Apps Common and I'll select the game from here, say Dirt 5, Dirt5.exe. Then when you've added the game executable of your choice, click Options and then make sure that it has High Performance selected. On notebooks, you may see, say, Intel Integrated Graphics as power saving and High Performance being your Nvidia or AMD dedicated graphics card. Click Save. And we're done here. Next up, optimizing the storage of your computer. If you're like me and you have tons of hard drive space, you have Windows on an NVMe SSD, games on SSDs, there's not too much extra performance you can pull out of it, but it's always recommended to clean up your drives and keep them nice and tidy. Drives in the red or really full drives can have some effect on games, especially hard drives that are very full and fragmented. So to begin, it's obviously suggested to uninstall old and unused software. This will not only make sure that your hard drive is more empty, less cluttered, but it'll stop them running in the background if at all. Hit Start and type in Control Panel. Open up the Control Panel, then under Programs, click Uninstall a Program. Otherwise, if you have this view, click Programs and Features. Now, of course, locate whatever programs you don't use anymore, double-click them, and uninstall them. I prefer to use this window instead of the new Settings window, as that seems to crash out a lot and not load in all of the programs. Anyways, when you've uninstalled old and unused software, it's a good idea to clean up your disk drive as well. Hit Start and type in Disk Cleanup. We'll be opening Disk Cleanup here. In this new window, select your C drive, if it's not already selected, and hit OK. Wait for it to scan, and you'll see a new window pops up. In here, I usually select everything, though do keep in mind that if you have Recycle Bin checked, it will clear the Windows Recycle Bin, meaning that any files you have there that you may want to restore later will be deleted. Everything else is usually okay to leave checked. Hit OK, delete files, and it'll clean up your C drive. I recommend rinsing and repeating for all of the other drives on your computer, though a lot of them you may notice are empty. If you have games on another drive, I'd recommend doing it on that drive as well. Then hit Start, type in Disk Cleanup once again, this time run it as administrator. Select the drive, I'll start with my Windows drive, C, OK. Wait for it to scan, and this time you'll notice different options including Windows Update Cleanup and a couple of other things here, which may end up with quite a few extra gigabytes to save you. You can go through each option here and check them as you like. Once again, Recycle Bin, keep that in mind, and then hit OK when you're done, delete files. Then we'll wait for this to complete as well. This one usually takes a bit more time. Though of course, that depends on how much it's clearing. Now usually I'd recommend to defrag and optimize your drives, but we'll return here later as we'll do further cleanup later on. Next up, background programs. We've already uninstalled useless programs that we don't use anymore, but if you hit Ctrl-Shift and Escape to bring up the Windows Task Manager, you'll notice just how many programs are running on your computer. It's worth a scroll to see if programs are running that you aren't necessarily using. I'm not using AnyDesk at the moment, Adobe software, etc., so you should close as many of these as possible. Usually, the Startup tab at the top is where most of these culprits live. Sort by status and go through each application here that's enabled. Everything that's enabled will start with your computer. You can right-click and disable them as you see fit. I personally have a ton of them disabled. On the Processes tab, you may notice that some of these have this icon here. It's a service. These automatically start with your computer and are programs that are running in the background. We can manage these by heading across to Services, Open Services at the bottom, and then going through this list of programs here. I'd recommend sorting by startup type once again, and all of the automatic options here are started right when your computer is started. You can right-click something, Properties, and turn startup type from automatic to manual, or of course, disabled. I'd recommend leaving it as manual. If you'd like to use that service or a program that requires it, you may have to return here and right-click Start. I of course optimize these as much as I can, turning off everything that I'm comfortable not using. Things such as BattleEye I've made manual, easy anti-cheat, epic online services, etc. But this will really come down to you and what you find on your computer. Then while you're at it, you should also hit start, type in background, and then open up background apps. In the settings window, simply turn let apps run in the background off. If you absolutely need this on, make sure to turn everything off in this list except for the programs that you're comfortable with running in the background. I'm not too sure why you'd need any, but of course this options menu is here because people do use it. Next up, more of a tip than an optimization. If you're on a laptop or a computer that's using Wi-Fi, you should absolutely be using a physical Ethernet cable to connect you and your router together. This way, you won't have to worry about packet loss, distance from the router, etc., etc. As ugly as a cable can be, it can help stability and of course network speed, which is very important for online games, especially Twitch shooters. Back to Windows optimization. Hit start and type in snap settings. We'll be opening up snap settings. In here, I usually turn off the when I snap a window, show what I can snap next to it, which is on by default. If I drag this to the side of my screen, you'll see that when it's expanded, all of the other windows on my computer aren't shown here. I find that when I'm running games in windowed mode, or of course full screen, they appear here and cause massive stuttering for my computer if I accidentally put something to the side of my screen. I usually do use snapping quite a bit, but this is of course personal preference. Heading across to the display tab at the top, make sure that all of your displays are set to their native resolution. So I'll select display 1, scroll down, and make sure display resolution is set to the recommended option, which should be the one that's listed on your box from your monitor. Then of course, set scaling to 100% for all of your monitors, unless you have something like a 4K monitor where you may want to have this higher. Scaling can affect performance of different games. At the very bottom, click Advanced Display Settings, and inside of here, we'll make sure that the refresh rate for all of our monitors is set to their absolute maximum, or at least what's on the box. My display 1 up here is a 144Hz screen, which is by default set to just 60 in Windows. You do need to raise this here. Or of course, in Nvidia control panel or anywhere else. If you have the resolution set to anything other than native, you may notice games seem extremely blurry, and of course, applications. If you're going to need to lower resolution, make sure that games don't have resolution scaling options inside of them, which allows you to turn down the resolution without making it extremely blurry before you resort to changing your resolution of your games, or of course your display. Now, if your graphics card is maxing out in games where your CPU is barely touched, something you can do to help get more FPS and latency performance out of your game is turn off hardware acceleration in apps like Discord, Steam, etc. This will cause them to use less GPU and instead more of your CPU, balancing the workload better and allowing the game to use slightly more of your graphics card, giving you better performance. Obviously, don't watch Discord streams and things like that while playing games for the best performance. Speaking of, you should also minimize the use of overlays. I find that I get less performance in games when I have the Discord overlay turned on, though of course this is user preference. Other third-party overlays may also come at some performance cost. Now, something you may not be aware of is that you can adjust the appearance of windows for better performance. Hit start and type in performance. We'll be opening Adjust the Appearance and Performance of Windows. In here, you'll notice a ton of options. Of course, this will all be up to user preference once again. For the absolute best performance, select Adjust for Best Performance, then click Custom. That'll just uncheck everything here. In here, you should have Smooth Edges of Screen Fonts checked, as well as Show Thumbnails instead of icons at minimum. The rest of these are all up to you. Then click Apply and OK. But for me, I'll be leaving it as this, as I just like a better looking Windows over absolute performance. On the Advanced tab at the top, make sure that Processor Scheduling is set to Programs, and Virtual Memory down here, we'll click Change. What is virtual memory? Well, basically, the paging file is a RAM overflow. No overflow means that programs are more likely to crash or lock up when your RAM is maxed out. This optimization is recommended. Turn off Automatically Manage at the top here, select No Paging File, and then click Set. We'll rinse and repeat for every drive on my computer. Then head across to the fastest drive on your computer, in my case C drive, which is an NVMe SSD, and select System Manage Size, then Set. If you have Windows on a hard drive and your games on an SSD, rather select your SSD where your games are and set that to System Managed Size. Of course, if you only have one drive, you can only select that and set it to System Managed Size there. Hit OK, OK, Apply, and OK. Now, some of the ones that are really scraping the bottom of the optimization barrel is making sure that you don't have a slideshow in the background of your computer. Hit Start, type in Background, and click Choose Your Desktop Background. In here, simply make sure that your background is either set to picture or solid color instead of slideshow. And finally, disable unused devices. You'll find that mostly sound devices fall in this category. Right-click the sound icon on your start bar and click Sounds. Then, inside of here, head across to Playback, right-click, and make sure that Show Disabled Devices and Show Disconnected are both checked. What we'll do is locate every device on this list that we're not going to actively use, right-click, and then disable it. All of these here are already disabled, other than these, and I only have the devices that are actively in use turned on. There we go. When you're done, you can once again hide disabled and disconnected devices. We'll be double-clicking on your audio output device first and changing some settings here. Enhancements don't really matter, but you can disable this if you'd really like to squeeze some extra performance out. I personally use something like Equalizer APO, guide down below, which is a system-wide equalizer to make footsteps louder, music sound better, etc. On the Advanced tab, you can raise the quality here to as high as you can go for better quality out of your computer, though anything above, say, 96,000 Hz could come at a performance cost, such as 192 kHz and above. Other than that, there's not much else that we can change here. Click OK, and we're done. Then rinse and repeat for any other output devices you actively use, and do the same for the recording tab over here. I'll double-click my microphone, leave enhancements on as I use EQ, and advanced, I'll change this to the highest possible quality. In this window here, you'll also see a communications tab. Set this to do nothing. If you have it set to any of the other options here, it'll lower the volume of music, games, etc. whenever someone's talking in a communication app. Hit OK, and we're done here. Now let's get into some extra cleanup out of your computer. Once again, very little performance impact, but of course, it may have quite a bit if there's a ton of extra stuff lying around. You can use something like CCleaner or a cleaner of your choice, but due to CCleaner's ad suggestions and other things, I like to personally avoid it. I'll use BleachBit instead. It's the same thing, but a different developer. You don't even need to install it. In the description down below, you'll find it linked. Heading across to the website, clicking Windows, you can download the portable version or the installer. I'll download the portable, which will download a zip, which I can then open up and extract the folder into a place like my desktop, where I can open it up, locate bleachbit.exe, and run this. So I'll quickly drill through some options here. The only things you want to avoid are cookies, history, passwords, and other preferences that are listed here, unless you want to sign into every website once again. Clicking the title of any of these will give you a description of what each of the options do. So let's quickly run through it. Adobe Reader, I'll check everything. Deep Scan will leave for now. Discord, I'll select Cache and Vacuum. FileZilla, you can ignore. Firefox, I'll select Cache, Crash Reports, and Vacuum. Google Chrome, Cache, Vacuum. Internet Explorer, Cache and Logs. Microsoft Edge, Cache, Vacuum. Microsoft Office, I'll do just logs. Paint, you can safely ignore. Slack, Cache and Vacuum. System, I'll do logs, memory dump, recycle bin, and temporary files. Thunderbird, I'll do cache and vacuum. VLC, I'll check everything. Windows Defender, check everything. Windows Explorer, I'll ignore. And WordPad, you can probably ignore as well. With this program, you can click Preview at the top to run through all of the files on your computer and calculate how much space you can save, what'll be cleaned up, etc. I'd recommend doing this first and giving this list a quick scroll to see if you're deleting anything you might not want to. On the list on the left, you'll see how much you're saving from each different program. Most of my savings are coming from System down here, the recycle bin with 194 gigabytes. Wow. Everything else is a medium 20 to 100, 200 megs, not too much. Microsoft Edge cache, Google Chrome cache, Firefox cache, and Discord cache are all taking up a couple of gigabytes in total. Awesome. And I'll click Clean to run all of these changes on my computer, then Delete. It'll then run through all of the files that are listed previously, this time deleting them all. There we have it, a cool 201 gigabytes processed. If you see any errors, note that any programs you currently have open that you have options selected for may not be able to run properly. So now we're basically done here. I'll uncheck everything, and if you'd like, you can have a look at the deep scan here. This is optional. DS files I would check, as these are created by macOS, and of course I'm on Windows. It says that it may be slow because it's going to scan through your entire C drive for these files and list them out for deletion later. These are usually safe to delete. Thumbs.db is created by Windows for most folders with thumbnails, though it's not always necessary and can be left behind in empty folders. Vim won't have an effect on your Windows computer unless you use the Vim editor. On top of these options here, we have backup files and temporary files. Backup will search for .bak files and temporary files .tmp, as well as a couple of other things. I'll click preview, though do note that some of these options here can cause havoc if certain programs are using these file extensions for things that aren't temporary or backup files. So once again, I'd recommend running a preview first, looking at the list on the right hand side, before running the clean. You may want to do dstore and thumbs in one run, then only backup and temporary files in another. This of course will take quite a bit longer. If I were you, I'd continue with the video and leave this going in the background. As you can see, 1 meg, but there could be a couple thousand files. For me, I'll just close out of this. Then of course, as it's portable, you can delete the files if you don't want the program anymore. Now, if you plan to defrag or optimize, now's the time to do it as we've deleted quite a few files. Hit start, type in defrag, and we'll open up defrag and optimize drives. You can use third-party software, but this is more than good enough. On every drive, you'll click Analyze and then Optimize if it's above, say, 2% fragmented. For SSDs, I'd recommend just clicking Optimize outright. This will run trim instead of defragging them, which you should never do on SSDs. So my C drive is an SSD and H drive is an SSD as well. You'll see the media type here. For your hard drives, I'd recommend analyzing them, though of course I've analyzed these later and they're all 0% fragmented. Awesome, we can close out of this. Now I'd recommend restarting your computer to make sure everything's nice and fresh for the next boot. Upon next boot, we'll be running 2 more commands. Hit start, type in cmd, and run command prompt as administrator. We'll make sure that Windows on our computer is not corrupt in any way and everything is the way it's supposed to be. Run SFC /scan now to run through Windows files on your computer and make sure everything's not corrupt and the way it's supposed to be. If you'd like to cancel this, you can hit Ctrl+C at any stage. When that's done, we'll be running DISM /online, capital O, /cleanup, capital C, -image, capital I, /restore health, capital R, capital H. Though capitals may not matter here. Hit enter and we'll wait for this to run through as well. This scans different parts of your operating system and once again makes sure that things are good and healthy. After that's complete, we're basically done here. Now in this part of the video, we're going to get onto some extras. These may have little to no effect on your computer and I'll do my best to explain these as I'm telling you how to tweak them. You may see some improvement to FPS and latency, whereas you may not. Whether these are snake oil or not are completely up to you. First of all, registry optimizations. Hit start, type in regedit, and open up Registry Editor. Click yes when prompted for admin, and we'll see this window here. On the left-hand side, we'll be navigating into HKey local machine by expanding it, then software. We'll click the software folder, and we'll type in MIC to drop down to Microsoft. We'll expand this, then jump down to Windows NT, expand this, current version, expand, click current version once again, type in multimedia, expand this, and then click on system profile. Then we'll have 2 options on the right hand side. Network throttling index, we'll double click to open up, and we'll be changing it to hexadecimal on the right hand side, and 8 Fs on the left hand side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then we'll hit OK. This is supposed to disable the throttling of non-multimedia network traffic, only really have an effect with more than 100 megabits per second throughput on your internet connection. System responsiveness, we'll double click, make sure it's hexadecimal again, and I'll be changing this to just 0. This is supposed to help some games and video streaming, which stops allowing multimedia applications from prioritizing themselves. Then we'll expand system profile on the left, expand tasks, and click on games. Inside of here, we'll be changing some options as well. We'll change GPU priority to hexadecimal 8 if it's not already, change priority to hexadecimal 6, okay. Change the scheduling category from medium to HIGH, high, capital H, okay, and SFIO priority to HIGH as well, high, capital H. This last setting should have changes to scheduled IO priority. From here, I'll close out of Registry Editor and we'll get to some other command prompt tweaks. Hit start, type in CMD, and run it as admin once again. There are two commands here. The first is ECN capability. If you regularly experience packet loss and network congestion, enabling ECN where supported by your router is supposed to help. You can run netsh int tcp set global ECN capability equals enabled. The default is instead default or disabled instead of enabled. But for me, I won't be running this command. Then the receive side scaling state, RSS, allows parallelized processing of received network packets on multiple processors. This can be turned off for much older and much slower CPUs where games use up to 100% of your CPU all the time. We could run netsh int tcp set global RSS equals disabled. Though of course, once again, I won't be running this command. Awesome, we can close out of this. Now we're getting even deeper into situational optionals. There's two programs linked down below. The first of which is QuickCPU. This program is used to unpark CPU cores. Parked CPU cores are basically inactive or set to a really low power state to save power on your computer. When you head across to this page, simply scroll down to the very bottom, scroll up past this list, and look for Download x64. Open the zip and run the installer. You don't have to extract it first. Click Next, Accept, Next, Next, and Install. Then after it's done, leave it as launch and click Finish. You'll be prompted for admin again, simply click Yes. Now the program will open up, take a while to process everything, and we'll look in the bottom left for all of these sliders here. Make sure that everything is set to 100%. Core parking, frequency scaling, turbo boost, and performance, then click Apply. If everything's set to 100%, don't worry, you can close out of the program and uninstall it. Once you've changed those settings, you don't really need this program again unless you change the power plan. So if you'd like, you can uninstall it. This is something I'll be doing. Next up, TimerResolution. I've seen quite a few people talk about it, but I don't really see a difference with it. In the description down below, you'll find this filedropper website, filedropper.com/TimerResolution, one word. Click download this file, enter the capture text, and confirm it, and you'll have an exe file that downloads. I'll be dropping this onto my desktop or somewhere that we can easily get to. Right-click and run as administrator. Basically, this adjusts your CPU timer to run at the highest possible speed always to try and gain performance or improve input latency while this program's open. Open this up and turn it on by clicking maximum before playing any game. Then simply minimize it. When you're done playing games, reopen the window from your taskbar and then click Default. Then click Close, and we're done with this program. You may see a huge difference, you may not. I personally see no difference using this program. And that about wraps up our video. We've gone all the way from real performance optimizations, down through settings with less and less effect, all the way down to some possible snake oil programs. And finally, if you really want to go all the way, there are completely custom operating systems, or at least modified Windows operating systems that you can download, such as Revision OS, but I won't be covering that at all in this video. I personally have tried it, and I sort of had an okay experience with it. It was just a super stripped down version of Windows 10, meaning that the Xbox application wasn't working for me as well as a couple of other things, so it wasn't exactly the best experience for me, but you can get some extra FPS. I don't think it'll be 50% extra, but it may be a couple of percent extra FPS, though this will really be for the extreme FPS nuts who want to get absolutely everything out of their computer using a really optimized, stripped down version of Windows. Maybe something you want to try. Thank you all for watching this video. Hopefully you have a better performing computer, especially after those first few steps. My name's been Technoba here for Troubleshoot. Once again, a portion of this video was sponsored by Lenovo Legion. Check the description down below to enter the giveaway. And I'll see you all next time. Ciao!